Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a great panel, and it's my distinct pleasure to bring to you the Small Business Directors Fireside Chat with the Air Force. And leading our panel today is Mr. Jeff Malott. Many of you have probably seen Jeff present in a variety of different events. He is the command level Air Force Material Command Director of Small Business Programs located at Wright-Patt Air Force Base in Ohio. He's responsible for building and strengthening AFMC's engagement with small business enterprises. And Jeff, I've seen your numbers recently, and you're really just hitting them out of the park. So kudos to you, kudos to your team. You guys are doing a great job with your outreach, continuous outreach at all levels. And it's really a pleasure to have the team back again, joining us for the Tri-State Mega Matchmaker. And with that, Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce the rest of our panel.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. And as Anna mentioned, I'm the Director of Small Business Programs at Headquarters Air Force Materiel Command. And, really, what that means essentially is as much like any other large organization or corporation. I'm I would call it a organized training equip role. I really don't do any buying, in fact, at all. I'm out there supporting the small business directors throughout our organization through the 6 centers that are comprise Air Force Materiel Command. That's why we have the folks that we're going to be talking to today on our fireside chat. And so as I have to do a little prelude, of course, up front of what is Air Force Materiel Command, and I've done this many times, is remember what's important about Air Force Materiel Command is how we spell material, and spelled with an E. So materiel means military material. And for the Air Force, what is military material? Well, that's aircraft, weapon systems, subsystems, propulsion systems, munitions. And it takes it from the basic idea all the way through its development, prototype, acquisition, test, sustainment throughout its life cycle, and its installation support across the globe. And so that is the command. We have over 80,000 personnel, employees, predominantly civilian. Out of that 80,000, we have about 10,000 military members, and the rest are civilians. Last year, in what we call government fiscal year 2024, which ended on 30 September 2024, just a couple of months ago now, we executed about 80 billion portfolio. And so, comprised of that are all those systems and aircraft platforms that you have heard of, right? Like the new B-21 bomber, the KC-46 tanker, the F-22, all the drones. And so that is what we do, and much, much more. And so, as I mentioned, out of that 80 billion, right, that we executed, we had a record small business program in FY24 of over $10.3 billion. Okay, that's 500 million more than our previous record. Actually, it happened in FY23. So just in a year, we increased our small business program by another $500 million. And we set new records in our small disadvantaged business, our service disabled veteran-owned small business, and our women-owned small business categories. So we just had what I call a kaboom year, really, in FY24. And who helped make that happen are the 3 gentlemen that are going to be on the panel today, right? Because really what we do, and again, I mentioned 6 centers, and that's comprising of the command is Air Force Research Laboratory, Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, Air Force Test Center, Air Force Nuclear Weapons Center, Air Force Sustainment Center, and Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center. Those are currently our 6 centers. We're in process of revising to actually have 7 centers, and I'm just not going to go into that today because we want to talk here, because that'll be an organizational change, really to more succinctly and adequately address the threat right now and align ourselves to do that more appropriately. But we're doing it now, and we're just going to be doing it even better. And so when I mentioned that basic idea, right, that's Air Force Research Laboratory all the way. And we have Brian McJilton, the Director of Small Business Programs for AFRL. And then when we acquire all those systems that I mentioned, right, that is done at Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. We have Luke Schultz as the Director of Small Business Programs there. We have him today. And then when we talk about the sustainment of these weapon systems across their life cycle, I always say this, I'm going to say it again because I like it, is this, when they say we've flown the B-52 for 50 years and we're going to fly it 50 more, that's because of our sustainment center and our depots that do that. And so that is our Director of Small Business Programs there is Ronnie Hobbs. And so we have 3 of directors of our 6 centers here. And to tell you the truth, you're super lucky because they do the bulk of the buying, right, across, and especially in our small business program. So with that, I'm just going to run through and I'm going to have each of the directors introduce themselves, talk a little bit what our commander calls our commander, General Richardson, our 4-star at the command, calls our center 6 purpose-built centers. So I'd like for you to address the purpose of your center, the mission of your center, and then also a little bit about your small business office, your program, and how to connect to your small business functionals, your professional, small business professionals within your center. So with that, kicking it off over to you, Brian.
All right, thanks, Jeff, and thanks everybody. Good morning and welcome to all of our small businesses that are here on the call today. And special thanks goes out to Anna, Joey, and Robin, who just put a lot of time and effort into making this a very informative and helpful event for our small businesses. Again, my name is Brian McJilton, Director of AFRL Small Business, and AFRL's mission is to discover, development, and delivery of high-impact S&T for both our Air Force and our Space Forces. And so we are the single laboratory that takes science from its early inception to determine, is there a military capability that can be serviced through science, and how do we transform that science into a technology, into a capability that can later then be transitioned over to our PEOs or our MAGCOMs. You'll be hearing a little bit more about that from Luke Schultz at our LCMC. But again, I would say we are the preeminent laboratory for the Air Force and Space Force. We are comprised of around 9,000 scientists and engineers spread across the United States. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is our headquarters for AFRL, and that is where our small business office is situated. But there as well, we have what we are composed of, or what called technical directorates. And our technical directorates are aligned around specific areas of technology, such as directed energy, space vehicles, aerospace vehicles, their engines, UAVs, the next gen aircraft, both cargo and fighters. We have material research laboratory. We have a sensors, things that emit and collect information. We have a munitions technical director down in Eglin Air Force Base. So you think about all the conventional weaponry that we equip our military Air Force air crews with. A lot of that research and development is done down at Eglin. We have our cyber information director that is in Rome, New York, and as well as our Air Force Office of Scientific Research. And that is really where we take the initial concepts of science and transform those within our TDs into military capabilities to a level that is ready to transition over to our program offices within LCMC and other MAGCOMs. So what is our small business portfolio? Our small business spend over the last 2 years has been over $2 billion. I know that Colonel Niemers, if you listened to her earlier today, she mentioned a lot about the SIBR program and its association with AFRL. That is very true. In the SIBR program, we offer around $1.1 billion in awards to small businesses on an annual basis, but another $1.1 billion goes directly to small businesses that work in non-SIBR related technology or non-SIBR related opportunities with AFRL. So you think about the opportunity space that we have in AFRL to really nurture and leverage and utilize the innovativeness, the agility of our small businesses. We demonstrate a lot of that, both through our SIBR program and the direct opportunities to work with AFRL. Jeff mentioned a little bit earlier about the record, the kaboom year for AFMC and the Air Force Enterprise. AFRL over the last 2 years have actually set some records of their own. And Jeff mentioned, the level of money that we were able to award to small disadvantaged businesses and service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. Again, we set records for AFRL this year in 2024. We awarded $540 million, or a little bit over $540 million to service disabled small businesses. I would tell you that, one of the areas has, Jeff had mentioned, and we heard earlier about maybe some of the decline in small business participation. One of the areas that we in AFRL are continuing to focus on and really trying to enhance is our women-owned small business numbers. And this year we fell a little bit short of what we were expected to perform, but we're taking some concerted efforts as we move into not only FY24, but FY25 and beyond to really focus on women-owned small businesses, giving them insights into the opportunity spaces to work with us. And so that leads us into the next thing. How do you get connected with AFRL small business? We have a website called afrlsbhub.com. That is, I would say, a central location to get a lot of information on how to gain access into information regarding SIBR sitters that are upcoming, other ways to get connected with a laboratory, and more information about AFRL. That is what I would say would be a great place to start looking at getting engaged and connecting with AFRL from a small business perspective. We have also small business professionals that are situated at each of our locations in AFRL. So out in Albuquerque, we have Miss Carmen Shavira, who is our small business professional supporting both our directed energy and our space vehicles directorate. In Rome, New York, our cyber information directorate, that is Mr. Mike Raniero. Out at AFOSR, it is Mr. Calvin Scott. And here at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, along with my team that's operating out of the headquarters, we have Miss Tara Norris that is supporting a number of the requirements that emanate out of our AFRL technical directors at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So again, glad to be here today and looking forward to the questions and the dialogue with all of us and all the small businesses that we have on this virtual event. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Brian. And I just wanted to mention that we have provided our AFMC small business pamphlet to the organizers, and it's going to be made available to all the attendees. So in that pamphlet, it gives you the contact information for everybody that Brian just mentioned, as well as the other small business professionals to support the other two directors we're going to hear from today, as well as the other centers. So it's a really good, easy pamphlet for you to identify points of contact. So with that, over to Luke Schultz, and he's going to talk about, he's our director again of Small Business for Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. And as I mentioned before, if it's an aircraft platform or weapon system, Air Force weapon system that you're familiar with, it's being acquired at Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. So over to you, Luke.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Malott. Appreciate it. Thanks, Brian. Great presentation. So Luke Schultz, Director of Small Business Programs for Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. Headquarters are Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio. In essence, what Mr. Malott said, we manage those Air Force weapon systems from inception to retirement. We also have quite a big footprint, with operational, civil engineering, things like that, just due to the size of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We have various mission execution directorates, or what we like to call program executive officers, or PEOs. So those are various programs like bombers, fighters and advanced aircraft, ISR SOF, programs like that. We also have enabling directorates, which is like myself, small business, contracting, finance. So in essence, I know usually Mr. Malat talks about kind of the great power competition. I know with the reoptimization, Air Force Lifecycle Management Center will be called Air Dominance System Center, and then the Information Dominance System Center. So part of that, the Air Information Dominance System Center, that will include a new DAF PO, Command Control Communications and Battle Management, or what we call C3BM. It'll also include the old C3INN, which is now Cyber and Networks, that has a revised portfolio. What used to be PO Digital is now PO Electronic Systems with a revised portfolio. And then it will also include PO BES, which is Business and Enterprise Systems, and that will remain the same. So if you're looking at the Information Dominance System Center, the Air Force Information Dominance System Center, it's mostly located at Hanscom Air Force Base up in Massachusetts, and then also in Alabama down at Maxwell Gunter. So with the other part, with the Air Force Air Dominance System Center, one of the new PEOs will be Combat Readiness, which will merge programs for what we called Rapid Sustainment Office, and then also other select programs from Agile Combat Support and other enterprise product support duties. Mobility and Training Aircraft is now PEO Mobility, and then also PEO Training. So we have two PEOs there. PEO Propulsion, which is now will be dedicated, and they look at from a holistic standpoint, integrated versus platform specific focus. PEO Fighters and Advanced Aircraft will remain the same. PEO Intelligence, Surveillance, Reconnaissance, and Special Operations, or ISR SOF, will gain some additional programs. PEO Bombers will remain the same, but have the opportunity to expand in the future. And PEO Presidential and Executive Airlift is now Presidential and Executive Air Power. And then PEO Weapons will remain the same. So for those various PEOs, you're talking about the locations at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, AF Metcal, Hanscom, or not Hanscom, but Eglin Air Force Base, and then also at the other locations that Air Force Sustainment Center helps support us with. As far as our small business spend for fiscal year 23, we had $4.3 billion. We account for about 44% of the eligible small business spend for Air Force Material Command. We have rough numbers right now for fiscal year 24, looking to finalize those very soon. It looks like we'll come in about $4.5 billion with record small business spend and small disadvantaged business, service disabled veteran small business, and then also woman-owned small business. So very thankful for the strong small business spend there. As far as connecting with us, you can go to our website. I put it in the chat, Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. Just search for Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, Small Business Office website. There's a lot of great information on there, including a video of how to do business with us. Useful information on the website includes expiring contracts list, which AFMC also has the expiring contracts list, which includes all the various centers under Air Force Material Command. A lot of great information on outreach events, points of contact, and then, as far as engagement, our preeminent event is our Air Force Lifecycle Management Center Lifecycle Industry Days, which is scheduled for the week of July 28th. So, and it also includes a list of small business professionals that support Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, to also include, like I stated before, we have that strategic partnership with the Air Force Sustainment Center that Ronnie Hobbs will talk about at Tinker Hill and Robbins that helps support us. So a lot of great ways to connect with us. Feel free to reach out, and we'll schedule our one-on-one sessions with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. And a couple things here I just would add as we transition over to talking to Ronnie is we use acronyms. Okay. And so I want you, if we use an acronym and you don't know what it is, please put it, in the Q&A or chat and we'll define it here. We both, Brian and Luke have referred to PEOs, and PEOs are program executive offices or officers. Okay. And they're like the portfolio lead. And so we have for instance, and Luke mentioned various PEOs. So to make it easy, there's a PEO for bombers. So they're like the CEO of all the bombers, right? So you have like the B1, the B2, the B21 are in this bomber portfolio, and it's led by a PEO. And so that's what that is. Within AFL-CIMMC is where predominantly all the Air Force PEOs reside, all those portfolios. And so Luke is the one to engage with there. If you have questions about that or how to engage with those PEOs, he has contacts within all of them. Okay, so now we're going to transition over to Air Force Sustainment Center, and Ronnie Hobbs is our director of small business for the Sustainment Center. And so when we talk about all those platforms that we've developed, right, in AFRL, all that technology that's been developed and seeded in AFRL has then been acquired into a system and delivered through Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. And Luke had talked about some changes there about how that's going to transition to 2 centers in the future. But then after it's delivered in the inventory, it is sustained through its life at Air Force Sustainment Center. And so, Ronnie, over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Anna. Really thankful for the opportunity we've had to present in front of this ecosystem. Honestly, for everybody on the phone and listening, this is really one of the strongest ecosystems that I've seen, and we've been all across the country. So I would really be thankful that you have that and really rely on these Apex accelerators to help you, because I think they're doing a great job. So I just wanted to say that for Anna and her team. So again, I'm Ronnie Hobbs, Air Force Sustainment Center Small Business Director. A lot of people wonder who we are, what we do. So as Jeff was saying, we sustain all of these weapon systems that get developed and purchased by AFRL and AFL-CIMMC. But the Air Force Sustainment Center, we are a numbered Air Force equivalent center. So what does that mean? It means we're a really big organization. Out of the 80,000 personnel in AFMC, we have 42,000 personnel. So a very large center with a very large footprint. We're across 30 different geographic locations around the world. We have 3 air base wings at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, Robbins Air Force Base in Georgia, and Hill Air Force Base in Utah. We also have 2 virtual wings, which is the 448th Supply Chain Management Wing and the 635th Supply Chain Operation Wing. And what that is the organizations that manage the entire Air Force supply chain, from buying to procuring to disposition, all the way to actually delivering the products to the people in the field. So the 635th SCAL, we call them, they're the ones that handle all the logistics of getting the equipment to the warfighter in the field. So very critical organization, and they are headquartered out of Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. They do a lot of innovation in regards to logistics. So as far as Air Force Sustainment Center, who we are, most people refer to us as the depots. And the depots, another name you can use for that is the OIB. That's kind of a term that you're hearing a lot in Congress when talking about we have to invest in our organic industrial base. They're talking about the depots. Each service has depots, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. Our depots are the Oklahoma City Air Logistics Complex, the Robbins Air Logistics Complex, and the Ogden Air Logistics Complex. And these depots is where we sustain and maintain these weapon systems. Currently, we maintain 16 different weapon systems for the Air Force, as well as the ICBMs. We do all of the Air Force engines, as well as partner service engines and FMS customer engines. We manage about 106,000 commodities that go on the different aircraft platforms. And what's interesting is our supply chain actually buys from our depot. So the depot is the biggest customer of our supply chain, in addition to the defense industrial base. So that's kind of an interesting little fact. We have about 16 billion annual revenue, which is the equivalent of like a Fortune 500 company. We have about 18.4 billion in economic impact for the locations we support at the 30 different geographic locations. So with that being said, what it means is lots of opportunity. Last year, we awarded, I believe, $1.4 billion to small business, with about 2.9 billion being eligible to small business. So again, lots of opportunity, and a lot of people are curious of, well, how could I support the depots? Again, as a big organization, we have a lot of infrastructure. So if you do engineering, infrastructure support, facility services, that's where you have a lot of opportunities to support us. And the way you can figure that out is we have three major buying divisions. We have an installation contracting division, we have a maintenance contracting division, and a supply chain contracting division. And when you go to our website, it's broken down by DODAX of those buying divisions. So as you work with your apexes, they can show you, and we can show you as well, how to set up your searches to figure out what those different offices are buying. In addition to that, we have a strategic contracting list that shows in detail what those different contracts are, when they expire, what they're for, in detail, not just a one sentence description, but they go in detail of what they're actually doing to help you understand, do I want to invest my time and effort to try to bid on this in the future? So I feel like that's very helpful. And the last thing is we developed a customer engagement guide, which for us, it's kind of the playbook of the Air Force Sustainment Center of how you should engage with us. It's broken down by all of our organizations, who the major contact points are at those organizations, and what they do. So I would just recommend, if you do want to engage us, go take a look at that customer engagement guide. It's on our LinkedIn, it's on our website, and just take a look and understand what the different organizations do prior to coming to us, and it'll really speed up the process of us trying to help you engage. So again, I love these events. I love trying to help people engage with us. I think there are lots of opportunity. Again, like Brian was saying, we've had record years. Past 2 years has been the best 2 years for the Air Force Sustainment Center. This year, we did not meet our socioeconomic targets, but I feel confident we know why. We had a large cash injection into our buying for our weapon systems. It's about $400 million. And it was for our major platforms, which are historically sole source to like your Pratt Whitney and GEs, to try to solve our engine problems. So that automatically, when we did that, it tanked our socioeconomic numbers. But I have confidence that next year we will be able to meet those targets and continuing to do the small business numbers that we have been doing, which has been records for us over the past 2 years. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ronnie.
problem.
I see on there that someone put in the chat that they'd like the link to your customer engagement guide.
Okay.
So I saw that pop up as you were talking. Anyway, hey, Joey, over to you. Do we have any questions that you want to, or Anna, on for the directors?
We
I
actually
have,
have some in the chat, and then
okay,
I'll
good.
toss it to Joey, because I believe there are some in the Q&A as well. So first question is to Luke. Do we have to go through the RPPOB if we have the capabilities to manufacture components or provide services to support life cycle parts and components? Or can we go through a much less bureaucratic process? Everybody's hopes and dreams, right? So.
Yeah, understand on that. So I posted an answer in there. I mean, really, it's a source approval request that I know there's some good information out there that Ronnie has on his website with Air Force Sustainment Center, going through being able to get approved for that. In essence, from a parts perspective, if it goes on a platform, you're looking for airworthiness. If it's some type of system, you're looking at, authority to operate. But I know, Ronnie, do you have any other information you'd like to share on that? Over.
No, right now I'm trying to figure out where to post this information to. Where do y'all want me to post? Do you want me to answer the question? I didn't see the question where they wanted
It was
from
in that question I just read was in the chat.
in the
So
chat.
if you want to post it in the chat, I think everybody gets to see it there.
Okay, I'll try. I just wanted to verify I was putting it in the right spot. A while ago, I was
no, that's fine.
wasn't going to.
Hey, Ronnie, I put your Air Force Sustainment Center small business website in there, which down towards the bottom of it, it has that SARS process and then also that customer engagement guide that you spend a lot of time on. So, and I think that's from our standpoint, really look at our small business websites. We spend a lot of time updating them, trying to provide as much information as possible that's useful to the small business industrial base. We're always looking for ways to improve it. You know, part of Ronnie's customer engagement guide is, you know, we're always looking what else, you know, do you need from us? From an Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, if you go to the AFL-CMC website, you can click on welcome the organizations, and there's just a really good explanation. And I know Mr. Malat's talked about this before, is really do your research, understand how your product or solutions can apply to the various mission execution directorates or POs or program offices. Over.
Yeah, I would say probably one of the biggest things that I understand this frustration from industry is the forecasting piece. That's what I hear so much is, what is your forecast? Can I see your forecast? Believe me, guys, if we had a forecast, y'all would be the first to see it. We would share that thing immediately. However, this year, the Air Force is making a concerted effort to require each organization to do a forecast through the GSA portal. So I'm hoping we can get traction there and actually start requiring that forecast in the portal, which will be a good resource for you guys. But in the meantime, like Jeff was saying earlier, we have our expiring contract list. And because if we bought it once, we're most likely going to buy it again. So that's where I would focus my efforts, is looking at those expiring contract lists. If you have a new technology that we haven't bought before, you could take it to AFRL. But if it's a commercial technology, you're more than welcome to come to us. And we can see if one of our organizations could benefit from it, because the Sustainment Center, we buy lots of equipment, lots of technology to support the depots. So if you engage with us, we'll try to get you in touch with the right organization to figure out if it's a need, a capability that we need. Over.
And I think too, all of us, you know, Ronnie was talking about forecast. We've really pushed our centers to do a lot, like with our life cycle industry days. We push them to talk about forecast, demand signals with the IDO standing up. I know Ronnie has a phenomenal event, Integrated Development Office. And then, you know, Ronnie has his great event, which is Tinker and the Primes, which I believe is the week after Life Cycle Industry Days, along with, you know, Brian has his Right Dialogue with Industry. That's the same week. It's at Power Pack Week in Dayton, July 28th. So there's a lot of, we've really pushed over the years to make events, outreach events that talk about requirements, enable you to network and kind of develop those strategic partnerships. Over.
Anna, give us the next question.
Okay, let's go to the Q&A then. So there was a lot of questions about the stats, Jeff. So this is coming back to you. And I don't know if you have them broken down this way currently. So somebody was asking very specifically about the contracts awarded and how many small businesses did that money go to. I think you had indicated all those dollars you mentioned were small business dollars. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Over 10.3 billion this year. The command executed to small business. We also had a record number of small business set-asides, over 11,000 small business set-asides. I don't know the exact number of how many small businesses. I mean, I have the data. I don't have it available with me right now. That's an easy one that we could find out from somebody if they want to email me or, you know, get on my calendar, we can talk about.
Yeah, to kind of give you guys an example, like for Air Force Sustainment Center, we had about 5,000 contracting actions to over 1,500 different small businesses, to kind of give you a flavor of, it's a large number of small businesses that we're reaching. It's not the same small businesses over and over. And one of the questions I saw for me was, of that 1.4884 billion, how much of that was long-term contracts? I would say it's very split. A lot of, to be honest with you, most of our small business work comes from our infrastructure contracts. Like supply chain for major weapon systems, it's only about 10% small business. But for the infrastructure side, our air base wings, that's about 90% small business. So really look at those infrastructure contracts, maintenance contracts. That's about 90% small business. That's where the opportunities are at, in my opinion. We're trying to increase access for the weapon system support, but as you can imagine, it's a very burdensome, time-consuming process to get approved to be able to build a module for an F-35 or F-22. So a lot of companies do not want to take the time and do the paperwork required to do that. And I understand that because there is a cost associated with that. But we are trying to improve that. So I would say it's a mixed bag. It's not all long-term contracts. We have a lot of C-type contracts, which are fixed quantity contracts where we buy X number of units, or it could be, if it's a service contract, it'll be a basic with 4 option years. So it's kind of mixed depending on what type of effort it is. But if there's more, sorry, I was gonna say if there's more you're trying to get to with that, if you can provide it, I'll try to answer that better. But I'm trying to understand what you're trying to figure out with that.
Hey, Anna, before we go to the next question, I was just going to throw one over here to Brian. And Brian, is there any best practices or ways to engage with AFRL that you suggest for small businesses? Because you do have a very large small business program, both in R&D, but also in laboratory services.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I'd say one of the biggest things is getting to our sites, start digging into the information that we're making available. We just launched a brand new AFRLSBHub.com website this year. It is solely meant to be a value add to all the small businesses, irregardless of where they're at in their walk. They can be brand new, a young entrepreneur, could be 1 or 2 person shop. How do I start getting connected? A lot of it is, working through your Apex accelerators, small business development centers. But as you move past that, how do we start getting into the information that is going to be valuable to you to support your strategic business planning with AFRL? What are those opportunities, our targets, our areas of interest that we are pursuing to meet the priorities that are being given to us by our Air Force customers? So we've got a number of mechanisms that we've created out of AFRL to help not only information sharing and opportunity awareness, but also different ways for our small businesses to get engaged with us. Sometimes it may not be successfully getting an acquisition right out the gate, but the other part of that is building a strong relationship with AFRL. So how do you go about doing that? We've stood up 2 regional networks, one in the Midwest and one in the Mid-Atlantic, and I provided links to both of those sites in chat. But these are collaborative networks that are built up of small businesses, large businesses, venture firms, other government laboratories, as well as AFRL and universities. And the idea is that we culminate together and we're looking at dual purpose technologies, those that have commercial benefit and those that also have military benefit, and how do we start risk reducing that to advanced technologies beneficial to both sides. It's a great opportunity for you to be part of that network and get engaged with AFRL to share with them your capabilities, the technologies you work in, but also to better learn what are some of the driving needs and challenges of AFRL. So you can start better assessing where do you align and where the opportunities may lay in the future. If you're an Ohio-based company, we have Ohio Federal Research Network. It's ohiofrn.org. Again, that link is in the chat as well. This again is another small award-based opportunity to where Ohio-based small businesses have an opportunity to partner with universities and work directly with AFRL on much needed areas of research that are driving solutions to the priorities that we're given. And then also beyond that, if you have ideas and you want to get feedback, you have an idea in technology and does this really align to an AFRL interest area? We have a tool that's called airforcetechconnect.org. And this is a great resource where you can share your idea. It allows you to get connected with an AFRL scientist and engineer to get feedback. The feedback may be that it is no longer an interest area of ours, but thank you for your idea. Or it could be an idea that is something that's in line directly with opportunities, or maybe some future things that we may be needing to consider as we're trying to continually advance technology, support our air and space forces. So again, these are other tools and mechanisms to use. But I would say if you are a SBIR company, if you have recently been awarded a SBIR, one of the biggest pieces of advice I would give to you is that leverage your TPOCs. You have an opportunity right now as being a SBIR recipient to start working with AFRL. If it's an AFRL award, it doesn't even matter if it's an AFRL award. It could be any award that you're getting through the SBIR program. There's going to be a technical POC that's supposed to be that interface with you and the government needs and those requirements. I would highly leverage that individual, to get more insights into how does this technology really support the broader Air Force mission or Space Force mission, and what are other areas or other places that they can help you get connected. And so again, it's helping building that network and leveraging the individuals that are put in front of you and the information that's been put in front of you to further leverage your opportunity space for the future. So to me, those are some of the biggest takeaways I would say with regards to how to get connected, how to get more information, and how to become successful in working with AFRL and with the Air Force.
Yeah, and as Brian was talking, and I was thinking about some things that we've said and that we've shared, and I'm seeing chat things pop up. I have just two things to share with everyone on this. And Luke had mentioned it, and I think Ronnie mentioned it as well, as our expiring contracts list. Okay, it's super important there because I say it's like typically in the federal government, once it's being bought, it's typically bought again, especially if it's a service. Okay, so you can use that expiring contracts list. We provide it for the next 2 years to identify, target potential opportunities. Then you can start marketing to that location, right? Or to start with the small business professionals that are there. And so you can get that by contacting my office, and it's in the brochure, the address, email there. It'll go to our it's afmc.sb.workflow@us.af.mil. And ask Chelsea. She monitors that. Just say, Chelsea, would you, I attended the Mega Matchmaker. I'd like a copy of the expiring contract list, and we give that to you for the entire command. Luke at the AFL-CIMC small business site publishes the AFL-CIMC version of that. It's included in ours, but he just shows you for that particular center. So you can go there as well if you're looking just at AFL-CIMC. The other thing I wanted to point out here is I see these is remember, and you can work with your Apex Accelerator on this. Find out who's buying what you're selling. And that is looking in SAAMMM and FPDS, the Federal Procurement Data System within the System for Award Management. Okay. And as I said, typically when someone has bought a good or service, they're likely to buy it again. So you can go and run a report. I would think your Apex accelerators can help you do that out of SAM, out of FPDS. That'll give you an idea of who's buying within your NAICS code. And always, there's a couple things there I would suggest is make sure you're getting what's called the descriptive data. That's a narrative data that the contracting officer or buyer inputs that gives a little more detail. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes not, but it's good to have. Also get the expiration date of the contract. Pull maybe the past 2 years of new contracts, new orders, SAM's going to capture everything $5,000 and above ultimately. And so you're going to be able to pull that. You could actually use our expiring contracts list that we've all talked about. Here's kind of like a model of the data to pull, because we've pulled it. We just have somebody on my staff, Damon, who's really good at doing that. So I'm lucky, right? I have somebody that does that. But basically, you can use that as a model to pull your own report and find out who's buying what you're selling across the federal government, because FPDS is used across the federal government. Anna, why don't you give us another question, or Joey?
Okay.
I think we have
So,
15 more minutes.
Yeah. And I think, thank you for that, Jeff, because a lot of the questions that are in the chat are very specific to open topics and so forth, like diesel and who's buying that. I can, instead of reading through all those, unless you really want me to, I think it's important that, as you mentioned, these small businesses are connecting with their Apex accelerators to get to the right office, or better yet, look at the brochure as well and understand who's buying what. But working with your Apex accelerators will help you to do that. Somebody had a question about diesel fuel, and would SAF Jet A or biodiesel, be something that you buy. So a lot of very specific questions, and I'm gonna jump from there.
What's interesting is on fuels, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure we buy fuel right there at the sustainment center. I'm sure we buy fuel. But
So
yeah,
Jeff, it actually DLA buys all.
right.
I provided the link to it.
Good, thank
DLA
you.
bulk petroleum. They're the ones that buys all the fuel. They actually have a location on our base, and that's who provides it for the DoD.
Right. So Defense Logistics Agency is an important organization to be aware of, because a lot of these basic fundamentals are, we buy. DLA essentially is that, I don't know how to best describe
The
that, but
Home Depot for the military,
yeah, thank you.
or
Someone put
the
like that.
superstore, really, or
Yeah, right.
Lowe's, or pick one.
Yeah. Okay. Joey, are there any other questions that you have? Or, because I've got a list of questions here that I can run through.
Plenty, Jeff. I think in the interest of time, if you want to hit some of yours, sir, and then we can always get a printout of these and circle back and get an FAQ.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Jeff, I know one of them that was in the Q&A was just common pitfalls that you see. I think from my standpoint at Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, some of the pitfalls that we may see from small businesses is they didn't reply to the sources sought or the request for information, because you have to remember, for us to fight for you, you need to make sure that you provide information, capability, answer the questions for the program team. So as they're pulling together their market research report, market intelligence report, that we understand, what the environment is out there, and make sure there's good representation for small business. We're really pushing, and I know one of the questions about or a lot of the requirements done by IDIQs and indefinite delivery and definite quantity contracts. Yes, we have a lot of those, but we're really pushing to make sure that we set aside a portion for small business, whether or not it's due to the requirements, if we can set it aside from a requirement standpoint. But we're really looking to set aside as much as we can for small business. The other thing that we see on IDIQs at times is, okay, you win the award, you're awarded an IDIQ, and then what we've seen is at times when they're asking for information, a small business did not provide it. So even at the time, even though you've won an IDIQ, usually they'll request additional information for the task orders, delivery orders. So make sure you respond to those, because that can determine whether or not that's going to be put or set aside in a small business pool for an IDIQ. And then just continue to follow up with as many contacts as you can. If you know somebody, I know in the chat they're talking, hey, should I reach out to this person? Hey, reach out to as many resources as you can. From our perspective, as you get your name out there and you start, awarding, or you start getting awarded either subcontractors or prime contracts, your name gets out there. We're looking for businesses, small businesses that do that have an innovative technology, that have great performance. And just that, the last thing I'd just like to provide, usually with Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, a lot of times your entry into AFL-CMC is through a subcontract. So make sure you network with those, what we call other than small businesses. You can attend industry days. You can get on the interested list of vendors. Life cycle industry days, just at other industry days like Tinker and the Primes. We always try to make sure there's plenty of networking opportunities, have the small business liaison officers there so you can meet with them and gain valuable information on how to do business with them. But, continue to knock on those doors and really sell yourself, your capability, your solution, but make sure you sell it from a standpoint of how is it going to help us out. Thank you.
Yeah. Luke, I'm going to tag on to that and ask a question. Okay. So, when during Colonel Nimmer's Q&A session, somebody asked, I'm having, payment issue. I need to be paid, right? And typically we have very strict payment terms, right? But if you are encountering issues on a particular contract, I wanted to point out that we small business professionals throughout the centers in the command and throughout the Air Force, we're your advocate, right? So if you're having an issue and you're not getting it resolved with your contracting officer, we're one to contact on that. So, just to riff on that a little bit. Hey, Brian, I wanted to, okay, so where, number one, what do your small business professionals, could you just talk about, I wanted to give an idea of, in the practical terms, of,
Right.
of what are we doing when acquisitions come up, and how do our small business professionals support those acquisitions? So folks have an idea of what we're actually doing out there in to support acquisitions.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So for each of us that we have here on this panel, and all of our other small business directors that we have across the Air Force, we have a staff of small business professionals that work directly within our acquisition offices. And so what is the acquisition office? Well, for AFRL, we've got 4 or 5 acquisition offices spread across the United States. We have primarily our big one here at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but we have one in Washington, D.C. with AFOSR, in Rome, New York with our Information Cyber Directorate, in Albuquerque with our RD and RV directors that are directed energy and space vehicles. And then we also have them down at Eglin Air Force Base. And so our small business professionals actually sit within the acquisition team. So as requirements come in to a contracting office to look at, what is the type of acquisition we want to go forward with to meet our needs early on through that engagement process internal within the acquisition office, the small business professional is your advocate to ensure that you're getting a fair and equitable opportunity, or at least look at potentially being identified as that contract strategy would be set aside for small business, or maybe it wouldn't be, based upon the requirement. But the small business professional is really sitting there within an acquisition office to serve you, to ensure that we're not just blindly looking at the requirements and saying we're just going to go with who we like, or we're just going to go with a large business. We really are there to fight for you, to ensure that if these requirements can be met by a small business, there needs to be justifiable information that says that we can't go that way, and we all have to concur on that. So, Jeff, one of the things, and Luke, that was a great rundown of some of the pitfalls and advice on that. I'd say one of the other things, again, that we support the acquisition office in is market research. And outside of looking at who we currently know and what is available out on SAAMM.gov with regards to all the different small businesses that are registered with the SBA, there's also another tool that is widely used. It used to be called the Dynamic Search Database. I think they've relabeled that, but it's what is it called? DF,
Small business dynamic search. It's still
yeah,
there. Yeah.
small business dynamic search. What we have found in many cases is that many small businesses will update their information initially when they get registered with the SBA, but they don't continue to maintain information in that tool. And that ends up being to the detriment of some of our small businesses, because that is a tool that is leveraged and used for market research. So again, I would say that would be another thing just to be aware of, to ensure that your information is maintained up to date, because that is a tool that the small business professional uses, and even our contracting teams use to identify, are there small businesses out there that can meet that requirement, meet that need. But again, the small business professionals are really here to serve you, to ensure that there are fair and equitable opportunities warranted to our small businesses with our emerging requirements for all of our Air Force offices.
Right on.
Jeff, can I make a comment, Jeff, and just say what a great job you and all the directors here did in connecting the dots for everyone and showing the relationship and how things are moved along in terms of supply chain needs, whether it's through innovation, building, sustaining, and so forth. And then bringing in and tying in other agencies like Defense Logistics Agency. And so my point is to say that, slowly everybody's got to start to understand that ecosystem, right? In order to be able to be in the right place at the right time. And maybe there are some best practices, like Brian, I know you guys have some great best practices with some innovative companies, and maybe you can hit it, you kind of just go over those real quick to share with small business before our time is up in a few minutes.
Anna, are you talking about some of the new programs we're getting ready to release?
It could be that. I'm thinking some small businesses that have been highly successful, and what is it that makes them successful, right?
Oh, well, I'd say one of the biggest, I'd say cradle to grave experiences I've had in working with small business was we do biotech research in a number of areas across the laboratory, and down at Eglin Air Force Base, which is our munitions directorate, they were studying a type of fly. It's called a rubber fly, which is one of the most elusive flies, I think, in the world. And they were studying it to determine how does it become so elusive and so lethal within its ecosystem, right? And its visual acuity is just outstanding. And so our researchers were studying the rubber fly to look at bioscience and how can we turn that into potentially military capability. Fast forward 5 more years, I'm out in Rochester, New York at an Apex Accelerator event. A small business comes and briefs us. It's called Bug-Eye. And they're getting ready to launch us on an F-16 pod. But Bug-Eye is intended to have the highest visual acuity of any of our weapon systems that are currently being built in the future. And I asked them, I said, hey, we were doing some research down at Eglin Air Force Base in biotech that was looking at these type of flies. And I said, they also had this. Have you had any collaborations with them? And a small business said, yes, that's who we're working with. So the small business actually took that science, looking at bioscience and how can we transform that into a military capability. And they were successful in achieving that in record time. And that is one of the hugest things I just value and appreciate the most. Before I came back into the Air Force, was a small business myself. So I appreciate the challenges and the struggles that our small businesses have. But I also appreciate the agility and the innovativeness that our small businesses provide. And that to me was a showcase of taking a science idea, turning that into a military capability that was demonstratable in about 5-6 year time frame. Outstanding.
Thank you for that.
Is that it, Anna? I think we're at times up.
I think we're at times up. Any last words from
No, I think it's been great. I super appreciate Brian, Luke, and Ronnie and their input. I mean, they're always super practical. We're easy to reach, easy to talk to. You're going to get our pamphlet, but I'm telling you, if you're in the 3 states of this mega matchmaker, all the Apex accelerators know who we are. and they know how to contact us. So, I mean, it's a direct line. So just get with your Apex Accelerator. If you can't figure out how to get in contact with us, they certainly know how to get in contact with me, and I can get you connected further. So with
Thank
that,
you.
over and out.
You guys are the all-star team. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Ronnie. Greatly appreciate all that you do for small business.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye now.